Welcome to the Main Lord podcast with your host, Laura, your unofficial mentor and motivator. Have you ever stayed in a job you hated just because you've put so much time? Maybe you've been there for 5, 10, 15 years, or maybe you've held on to a relationship because, well, you think to yourself, we've been through thick and thin. They've been my ride or die. I've been their ride or die. And you've been through so much together that you just feel like you cannot quit now. That voice in your head is telling you to keep going because, of course, everything you've invested, it just makes sense, right? But what if I told you that sometimes that's not rooted in loyalty or wisdom? It is something called the sunk cost fallacy. And today we're going to flip that on its head because we need to talk about it. So not only are we going to expose it, but we're also going to use it as a tool to set ourselves free, whether we want what we want or not. So let's get into it. Now, what is the sunk cost fallacy? And according to the Oxford Dictionary, the sunk cost fallacy is the tendency to continue investing in something, whether it's time, effort, or money, simply because you've already invested in it, even if it's no longer the best course of action. Every time you try to decide whether something is good for you or not, you start thinking about all of the time, all of the investment that you put in. The time when it becomes an issue is when it comes up all the time in our lives, is because we are typically very reluctant on abandoning things that we've invested either time or effort in, whether it's your job, a relationship, an investment in itself, a business, right? So we have to always consider why we are so attached to things just because we have invested, we have history with something. And at the end of the day, it's really just a mental trap. It's when we continue investing time, your energy, your money even if it's no longer serving us. Think about how many times you've started a new series. Netflix has hundreds, right? And we get excited. I remember this happened to me when I started watching Riverdale. And I'm sorry, Riverdale. I was really excited to watch it, right? But towards the second, third season, I was like, I wasn't sure where it was really leading to. The storyline just didn't make sense anymore. But regardless of that, I still felt obliged to continue watching it. So it kept popping up in my Netflix views saying, hey, this is an unfinished series. Let's go back and finish it. So think about a movie. It could be a movie, a series, anything that you've started that you say, I'm already watching it. Even if you're bored, you may just keep it on and just listen to the noise as long as you're thinking to yourself that you're finishing that series, that movie. You're practically torturing yourself instead of just saying, you know what? I really hate this movie. I really hate this series. Whatever it is, I'm going to just cut my losses and move on to another series, another movie that I like, right? So that's essentially what a sunk cost fallacy is. And it's like finishing that 2-hour movie that you're not enjoying because you already sat through it for the first hour. Or sometimes it's sticking with a major. Think about what you majored in. Is that something that you really loved from beginning to end? There are people that they start a major and say, I absolutely hate this major. Or maybe you realize that AI is taking over and now your job is going to be pretty much obsolete by the time you graduate. But you say, you know what? I'm going to just finish it off because I've already finished 30 credits and I don't want to start over. But the truth is, you've put so much into it. And you sometimes think to yourself, I can't quit now because I've already completed so much that it just makes no sense for me to go back and start over. Or sometimes you say, it'll be worth it eventually. I'm sure there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, right? There's going to be some form, something that's going to click that is going to make me say, I knew that's why I stuck with it. And sometimes, you say, I've just come too far to stop and I want to graduate in 2 years. So it makes no sense for me to go back and pick another major. But the truth is that what you've already given up is gone. And that is your time, your money, your energy, right? Your effort. All of that is already gone. And what you have to think about is The only thing that matters is that you still have more to give. You still have more money to give, well, hopefully, or effort or energy. And you have to decide, is it worth me putting more of that into what I've already done, into all of the effort and time that I've already put into something? There are often times that this could also come into play when we think about our lifestyles. Think about your daily routines, your commitments, even the place where you live now. And sometimes you have to ask yourself, am I maintaining this lifestyle because I've chosen this or because maybe I'm falling into it? Are you holding on to that gym membership, which, hey, I'm also guilty of? I've had it since January and I've barely gone. I'm sorry. Or, that apartment that is absolutely gorgeous, but you realize that it's way above your budget. I've already signed that lease. There's no way that I can just give up on it now. And one example of that is, remember during the pandemic, there were a lot of people who decided to get Peloton. And now that the pandemic is gone, all of that is out of the way. It's just pretty much sitting there. Now you're finding yourself wanting to go outside a lot more. And I have that problem with my mom because I bought her this bicycle, to do exercise at home. And I tell her, you know what, can I just take the bike because you're not using it. It's just sitting in the basement. And she's like, well, no, I'm gonna use it. I'm definitely gonna use it. Don't worry. 2 years later, it's still in the basement catching dust. That is essentially what that sunk cost logic is. Is it serving the life that I want today? If I didn't already own it, would I choose to bring it into my life right now? And that's where you have to always consider that decision. When you think about sunk costs, it's understanding that no matter what you did before, if I had to start over today, completely forgetting about everything that you've done, every effort, every money, everything. If I had to start over today and invest in this bicycle or invest in a gym membership or invest in that kitchen gadget that you've always wanted, would it make sense for me to get it right now? You'd be surprised the answer that you come up with. We stay in roles or careers that drain us, justifying it with the years that we've invested in school or the promotions we've gotten or the paychecks or the visibility, anything, the travel, whatever it is, we end up justifying that. But the question that comes to mind is, if today were your first day, would you still say yes to this job? Think about it. If the answer is no, then don't let your resume hold you hostage. You might have invested thousands of dollars in your degree, but that doesn't mean that it owns you. And it doesn't own your life. So don't stay in something that will cost you your peace just because it once cost you money. And that's something valuable that I think about all the time. And it's happened in the past, right? Right now, I absolutely love my career. But in the past, I've always asked myself this question. And it's a tough one to answer because we always think I have done so much, especially as someone who was in the military and you kind of want to continue with that. And you say, I just want to stick with it. Then you realize what you're losing as a result of continuing down that path. And the answer eventually becomes very clear. I tend to hold on to things and be super loyal to things just because I've done so much to either make it better or fix it or invest in it. But you have to always ask yourself, what am I actually gaining now? What is the opportunity cost of staying stuck, right? Because if you feel like you're not fulfilled or passionate about what you're doing, then essentially you're going to feel stuck. You're going to feel like you're not growing. The truth is that freedom is expensive, but staying stuck will cost you a lot more if that's what you choose to do. Make sure that you equate freedom to double the money that you're already invested. I hope that makes sense. So if you've invested $10,000 on something, but you love your freedom so much that it's kind of conflicting, then your freedom is probably going to cost you $20,000, right? So is it worth you staying there, investing putting more money into something that you're already outgrown? Perhaps not. Your freedom is probably asking you to do a little bit more and just move on and follow whatever it is that you want. Follow your dreams, your goals, and follow maybe even a new career that is going to be a lot more fulfilling. Now, the hardest one of all is relationships. Whether we're talking about friendships, romantic partners, or even our families, we often stay around or stick around purely out of either guilt or that sense of obligation. And we may say to ourselves, we've been friends for so many years, or probably since college, or elementary school, whatever, or I've already given them so many chances. If you're talking about a partner or friend, I've given them so many chances that it just doesn't make sense for me to walk away from it all now. And sometimes you think we've built so much together. It's even harder when you build a business, bought a house together. When you do all of these things, it kind of makes you feel like you must stay there, because absolutely it's something that you should be grateful for and appreciate from each other. But at the end of the day, those things should not be the reason why you stick around or sitting around miserable or unable to be at peace, because you don't have that one thing that you really crave, which is peace of mind, love, respect, all of these things that are not tangible, but mean so much more. And some of the questions that you should ask yourself: how do I feel when I'm around this person? Do I feel energized, or do I feel drained after seeing them? Is this someone that every time I see them, my eyes light up and I'm like googly-eyed as a result? And giggling or whatever, you feel like a kid. And obviously this is different for everyone, but this is something that's super valuable to me. But think about how that person makes you feel when you're around them. At the same time, ask yourselves, well, if I met this person today for the first time, knowing everything that you know about them, would I want this person in my life? And the truth is that love isn't just proven by how long you know someone, by how long you stick around. You can say that it's proven by how honest you are with yourself and with them as well. And sometimes walking away is the kindest thing that you can do for the both of you, because it's not just about you at the same time, right? Like if you're not happy, you're also not allowing that other person to be happy by walking away. Think about those things. I know it's super complicated, especially when we're all grown adults, right? And when you have children, that's also something that could potentially get in the way or make things a lot more difficult. But you have to think about what you want. And there are definitely ways in which you can still maintain a solid foundation within your families without feeling like you're suffocating. It's just a matter of having those conversations, understanding that. And by the way, that doesn't mean that you have to walk away from someone. It could just mean that because you're feeling this way, maybe there's a conversation that needs to be had. Maybe there is an acknowledgement that something isn't working as it should, or that the expectations that you have or that they have of you are not meeting your standard. And as a result, sometimes communication is all you need. So I'm not here telling you, hey, walk away from your spouses or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever. Absolutely not. But what I'm saying is, like, I acknowledge that if you're starting to feel like what you're putting in is not being reciprocated, then maybe it's time for a conversation. So in essence, you can think of a sunk cost fallacy as sort of a compass. Maybe it's like a meter. How hot is it? How cold? It's just something that you should always kind of look back to and say, what am I clinging to only because of what I've already given? And if I were starting from scratch, what would I really choose? I love these kinds of questions because it almost makes you realize the things that you don't really think about on a day-to-day basis, but you should be. So that clarity that you're experiencing when you ask yourself these questions, that is your power. That is your inner power. And you're not really disrespecting your past by letting things go. I would say probably honoring it by not letting the cost of something affect your future. Because it is your future, and you have the ability to decide and maybe guide yourself with this compass of where you actually want to be. So I want to ask you, what's something that you're holding on to that no longer serves you? And it could be a belief, a habit, a job, a person. So give yourself permission to release something. And it doesn't mean that it was worthless or not worth your time. It could mean that you are worth more than staying stuck. Simple as that. So get out there, find out what that song called fallacy is for you. Don't let the ship sink, how we say. So yeah, in this episode, spark something in you and it made you feel some type of way. I would love for you to write it down. And this is your challenge for this week. Write something that you feel has come up during this podcast, something that you've been holding on to because of sunk costs. Add to it one little action, one small action that you can take to shift that into the right path. So yes, make sure you share this episode with someone who needs a little nudge. So make sure to tell me what you think. Leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, share it with a friend. Anyway, anything that you can do to help this podcast, I will appreciate it. So thank you so much. This has been the Main Allure podcast. Remember, you don't owe your past anything, but you do owe your future everything. Until next time, bye.